Daniel Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be over the Texas Longhorns, one of the top teams in the Big 12 in the 2022 season. And this is possibly Texas's final season in the Big 12 coming up here. This is a team that is headed off to the SEC after this. And I mean, this team has got some high expectations as we look forward to 2023 as well. This team, you consider the talent, the recruiting, everything, it all makes sense for this team to potentially be a big contender in the 2023 season. We'll be talking about this team's ceiling here today, whether or not this team could be a potential dark horse contender as well this upcoming season. We'll be analyzing this team and predict their schedule game by game in this video. Let's get started with a quick recap of 2022. This team was 8-5 overall, beat Louisiana Monroe in dominant fashion in week 1. Came back the next week to face off against Alabama. This was a highly anticipated matchup heading in, the rematch of the 2009 season national championship, and it was a close game. Many expected Alabama just to be dominant and blow out Texas potentially, but Longhorns hung in there and kept it in a close game. Took a loss 20-19, but a 1-point loss against the Crimson Tide. It was a valiant effort there by Texas, but in the end came up short. Beat UTSA the next week 41-20, then lost to Texas Tech on the road. This was a disappointing loss here. Definitely much more disappointing than the Alabama loss, as they lost in overtime by 3. So a 2-2 start to the season. October, though, was great, especially to start things off. Beat West Virginia in dominant fashion. Beat Oklahoma 49-0. What a win that was for the Longhorns. And then beat Iowa State in a closer one, 24-21, but still got the win. Then lost Oklahoma State on the road, 41-34. Close game there. I mean, it came down to the wire and a touchdown loss there for Texas. But, I mean, that was kind of the story for Texas last season, was those close losses. This team was in every single game. This team won several games in dominant fashion, but they had 5 close losses. All 5 losses came within a score last season for Texas. This is a team that was 8-5, but definitely could have been better than that. They beat K-State on the road 34-27. Turns out K-State was the eventual Big 12 champion. Then they lost to TCU 17-10, which TCU was, I mean, what a surprise team they were. Made it all the way to the national championship. And then the next week took care of Kansas, no problem, 55-14. Just what an incredible conference. I mean, last season, you consider K-State, their run, TCU's run, Kansas coming back to life. Just an insane season in the Big 12. And then a win over Baylor for Texas to finish out the regular season, 38-27. Took on Washington in the Alamo Bowl, and that was a great matchup there. You consider Washington was playing some excellent ball at that point in the season. They did beat Texas 27-20, but I mean, both Washington and Texas definitely got one thing in common as we look forward to 2023. Both teams have got high expectations. I mean, both teams are considered potential dark horse contenders in 2023. We'll see what happens with that. But looking forward to 2023 now, your roster previews. We look forward to 2023. Quinn Ewers coming back, the starting quarterback for this team. So Quinn Ewers, last season, 2,100 yards, 15 touchdowns, over 6 interceptions. Maybe a bit of an underwhelming season for him, but I mean, he's definitely a quarterback with tremendous potential, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in 2023. I mean, he's got a season under his belt now in 2022, and he's got an offseason to improve. I think Quinn Ewers definitely at least starts the season as the quarterback. We'll see how fast Arch Manning is able to develop. He's a 5-star quarterback coming in, obviously a huge name. And so we'll see what he's able to do here in this offseason and in the quarterback battle. But Hudson Card's already gone. He's transferred out, which he did play somewhat in 2022. Didn't get to play a whole lot. But Quinn Ewers was, definitely the primary starter in 2023. Bijan Robinson is gone. That is a huge impact on this backfield. He put up nearly 1,900 yards of offense last season and 20 touchdowns. Just such a significant part of this offense. It's going to be tough not having him around. Roshan Johnson is also gone, who put up 680 yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. So the backfield alone for this team had over 2,500 yards and 26 touchdowns, and you're losing both of those running backs. So that is the main concern I've got with this offense for sure, but Jonathan Brooks is the next man up. Looks like he's going to be the top back in the backfield this upcoming season. But the receiving core looks actually really good. So Xavier Worthy's coming back, Jordan Whittington's coming back, and same with Javion Sanders, who was the top tight end, 3rd in receiving last season. So receiving core looks good. The backfield I am a bit concerned about, but I'm sure that this team, I mean, they are stacked in the backfield. So I do have confidence in Jonathan Brooks and what he's able to do, but we'll just have to see. It also helps that he's been under Bijan Robinson, who's just an incredible back who's got a very bright future, I think, in the NFL. But this team defensively loses 2 on the D-line, 2 linebackers, 2 in the secondary. So defensively, there's a couple of losses there as well. But this team has got a high ceiling. And are they a true national contender in 2023? I do think this team could be a contender. Definitely in the Big 12. I could see them winning the Big 12 title this season, which would be the first time in a while. But as far as it goes nationally, I just think this team still has got a few question marks. But in the future, say 2 or 3 years, I know this team is moving to the SEC, which is going to be a huge step there. SEC is a brutal conference, but they're going to have the talent in the SEC to still be a contender. I really do think so. But your transfer portal and recruiting, so Hudson Card, mention him. He is off to Purdue. You bring in Adonai Mitchell for the receiving core. Once again, this receiving core looks outstanding as we look forward to 2023, and you're adding Mitchell from Georgia. You do lose a few here. Brennan Thompson is off to Oklahoma. Junior Angelau, defensive lineman, is off to Oregon. Andrej Carrick, defensive tackle, off to Tennessee. Jalen Garth, lose him as well. Same with Logan Parr. So the O-line loses a couple. And then Ovi Ogofo, edge rusher, is off to LSU. So you do lose him. Prince Dorba, edge rushers, off to Arizona State. Trill Carter, got him coming in. Defensive lineman from Minnesota. Devin Richardson, linebackers, off to Washington State. Bring in Gavin Holmes and Jalen Catalan. So you got 2 in the secondary. They're coming in. You lose Jamier Johnson, JD Coffey, and then Ishmael Ibrahim off to different places. Recruiting wise, I mentioned this team is outstanding. They're 3rd nationally, top team in the Big 12. You got 6 5-stars coming in, 12 4-stars. This team has got no excuse not to be a contender in the future here, in the near future for that matter. I mean, this team is on the rise. They had a solid team in 2022. As I mentioned, their 8-5 record, this team, all 5 losses were close. This team could have been better than 8-5 for sure last season, just was on the wrong end of a few close losses. And so heading into 2023, there is a lot of potential here for Texas. And that said, I've got this team at a 9 out of 10 on the future forecast meter. Future is bright for Texas, and this team has once again got no excuse to not be good. You consider the talent on this team and everything. I would say things are looking good for Texas. Maybe this is finally the time where they can get over that hump once again. But that said, let's look at the schedule now as we look forward to 2023. So you got Rice in week 1, and then a huge showdown in week 2. So this is the second game of the home and home with Alabama. This time it's in Tuscaloosa. Not going to be much easier this season. Although I will say this, Alabama at the start of 2023 is going to be a bit vulnerable. I do think the quarterback situation is going to be a question mark, especially in the early going for Alabama. I mean, you got Milroe in there for Alabama. Looks like he's going to be the primary starter. But Bryce Young's gone. They're losing a lot of talent. I do think that's a winnable game there for Texas going on the road, although Tuscaloosa is a tough place to play for sure. Got Wyoming in week 3, Baylor on the road. Kansas comes to town to finish out September. Got Oklahoma there in Dallas to start out October, the nearby week. Houston on the road, BYU at home. Of course, a couple of new teams in the Big 12 there. And then K-State to start out November. TCU on the road, Iowa State on the road. And then Texas Tech at home to finish out the regular season. So looking at your first 4 games, you got Rice, easy win, no problem there. Alabama on the road. I went back and forth on this one. I think this is a winnable game here for Texas. I mean, Longhorns definitely are going to be more experienced, I would say, heading into that matchup. But Alabama, the talent on that team, the amount of depth that the Crimson Tide have, Nick Saban coach team, I think they find some way to get it done, but a close loss. It's going to be a close game. Texas is going to hang in there. Potentially, I wouldn't be surprised if Texas gets out to an early start, maybe leads for a while in that game. But it's tough for me to go against Alabama there, especially with it being in Tuscaloosa. So I'm going to favor the Crimson Tide there. Wyoming, easy win. Baylor on the road, I'll favor you there as well. Baylor, I just don't know if they're going to be, they were an outstanding team in 2021, fell off a bit in 2022, and I see them kind of somewhere in the middle of 7 or 8 wins in 2023. I do think you beat them there in Waco. So you're 3-1 heading into October, and your second month of action. You got Kansas at home. Should take care of them. Kansas could be decent, I think, in 2023. I don't see them. That's just a bottom feeder team in the Big 12. I don't see them getting past 6 or 7 wins, but could they be good in 2023? Maybe. For their standards, they could be good. But I can take care of them like you did in 2022. Then you got Oklahoma, the Sooners. This was I mean, just a one-sided blowout in 2022. Texas won, 49-0. I think it's closer this year. I think Oklahoma's going to be improved, but you still beat them in a close one. I mean, the Sooners are in an interesting position right now, and considering this is the last season in the Big 12, likely for both Texas and Oklahoma, the way it sounds, maybe something gets delayed, but that's just the way it appears right now. And so for Oklahoma or Texas, I do think Texas is in a better position moving to the SEC right now than, say, Oklahoma, who's kind of in a rebuild position with a new head coach in Brent Venables. But yeah, so you beat them. You got Houston on the road. This is a sneaky game here. I don't think Houston is going to be quite as good in 2023, but it is on the road after a bye week, a sleepy environment there in Houston. I think a closer game here, but I do think you get the win in a close one, and then BYU take care of them no problem. So you're 7-1 heading into November. K-State, I see them being pretty good in 2023 once again. This is a winnable game here. I think K-State is a beatable team, but I am going to pick K-State here. I do think Texas, I mean, there's very much a possibility this team goes 11-1 in 2023, just the way the schedule sets up. It is favorable. I mean, TCU, I don't expect them to be very good. I do think they're maybe between 6 and 8 wins. I do think TCU falls off, though. I will say that. Many are still thinking TCU is a contender, but I see them falling off kind of similar to how Baylor did from 2021 to 2022. And so I've got TCU falling off a bit. I think you beat them and Iowa State. And Texas Tech is a team to keep an eye on. I see Texas Tech as a potential dark horse contender in the Big 12. So keep an eye on them. I do think those 3 last games are all close if you win all 3. And I do want to say this. I mean, Kansas State, I am picking K-State over Texas. And I do think Texas finishes out the season 10-2. I think you lose to Alabama and either Oklahoma, Houston, or Kansas State. I'll say one of those 3 games. It's just a matter of which one. And I've got you losing to K-State right now. That's just... I think K-State they're a solid team. I do see them being a big contender once again in the conference. It's a winnable game, but I'm going to pick K-State there. So 10-2 is your record prediction, and here's your range. So I do think 12-0 is within possibility, although it is unlikely. I see this team more than likely between 9 and 11 wins in 2023. I've got Texas right in the middle at 10-2, in the floor at 8-4. So there is a bit of a low floor here for Texas, in the case that, as I mentioned before, Quinn Ewers maybe stays the same, doesn't really improve, and the quarterback situation is just mediocre, especially at the backfield, which the backfield could be a big question mark. That's the main way that Texas had any success on offense last season. So now having Bijan Robinson in there, Rashawn Johnson, it is a bit concerning for me. But if everything goes right, this team very well could go 12-0, and this would be, I mean, if they can go undefeated in the regular season, it'd be pretty similar to 2009. This team a big contender once again, and it would be a great way to finish out this team's time in the Big 12. But definitely an interesting season coming up here for Texas. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this team, and I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.